If we could stand and salute the flag and have a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Recommend approving tonight's agenda as submitted.
I recommend.
Okay. First by Ms. Ralph. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
By Brent Nichols. Roll call vote, Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
And I also approve. So approved. As you can see, we're short board members this evening, so we have a quorum. That's what we need, is a quorum. Okay, recommend the approval of the minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting, June 12th.
So move.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote. Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. So approved. Recommend the approval of the minutes of the Board of Education reorganization meeting of July 1st.
So move.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph again. Roll call vote. Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I approve, so approved. Recommend the approval of the minutes of the Board of Education special meeting of July 1st, 2024.
That would be, so move.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. And I also approve. Roll call vote. I approve. Mr. Nichols.
I approve too.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
So approved. Recognition of guests. Dr. Larimore.
Yep, we are actually going to do Becker Morgan under reports tonight. I've forgotten we had talked about that earlier. We're going to have Becker Morgan Group come up during our report. So just a few more moments, sir.
Okay. Board participation. Ms. Ralph, would you like to say anything?
Yep.
Yes? No? Okay, Mr. Nichols?
I was over to the elementary school. I got to meet our new principal and everything was going on there, and I've been talking to a lot of the teachers. I'm not buds with him. A guy named Dickens, he wrote a book called Great Expectations, and I have great expectations for what's getting ready to happen here this year. I've had great expectations before, but I'm really anxious to see how things turn out. I think we need to fill up some more teachers, but I think we're getting ready to maybe we've got no place to go but up. So I'm anxious to see how high we go. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Well, we have 3 staff members in here that are new to the Bulldog family. Well, no, 2 of them aren't new, but 2 of them are in different positions. Mr. Nolte, Mrs. Voljas, and then can't pronounce your name, so I'm going to call you Dr. G. And you're in your new positions. Welcome. You'll love Laurel. Well, those 2 they already know, and of course, Mrs. Giles. She's still in her spot. So she loves Laurel too. So anyway, welcome. Welcome to all of you in your new positions. Mm-hmm. Okay, reports. Oh, public participation. There's no one here to have signed up. Mm-hmm. So reports. Dr.
And yeah, thank you, President Hitchens. Prior to our financial report, we'll have Becker Morgan now come and do their presentation for our certificate of necessity, which we would like the board to consider tonight for North Laurel Early Learning Academy. We are at about 2650 in students, and we are one of the fastest rising populations. And not only is our population going up, but our building capacity is getting smaller. Sir.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Brad Hastings, Principal Architect with Becker Morgan Group. Good to be back again. Hopefully we're successful this year. So some of you will recall seeing this presentation last year. We've just kind of updated the numbers, but a little bit of background, review the plans, review the costs, and go from there. So as you're probably well aware, the original North Laurel was built in 1965 with some additions in 92. It's just a little under 62,000 square feet. We were able to complete some partial renovations there back in 2019, and the roof renovations just a couple years back. I think it was 2 years ago, this same time, where I was up doing that inspection. So it's on about a 15.25 acre site, and pre-K and K with 234 students in there, so 56% of the rated capacity currently, but that's used. And the projected enrollments, which you see here, rising up 24, 25, 63%, 25, 26, looking at 72%. And really some of the other background to this with Laurel Elementary's projected enrollments, 94% and increasing up to 95% next year. If those numbers hold true, could even be more if things pick up. So with that, the existing school and the partial renovations I mentioned were in that wing A, down on the bottom part there, but shows additional classrooms that are not being utilized in the area C and D. So that is some unutilized space there, and knowing that space is at a premium is kind of
Brad, can you
the
go back to
background
that?
here. Sure.
When you're showing D, that's the one that's running horizontal across, or is it the one
That's
that's going?
actually both the one horizontal across and then down on the
Oh, the whole thing
right
is,
side.
the whole thing is D,
Sees
okay.
the vertical piece there.
Okay. So we would have renovations in C and all the way through.
C and D.
In C, that's where the pre-K is right now,
Yes, I
isn't
believe
it?
so.
Right?
Is that where you
Wait a
walk
minute.
in and go straight down?
As you walk in the front door, which
Yep.
is down there on the bottom left side,
Yeah.
you walk in, turn right, and that area A with all those classrooms there, 13 classrooms that were renovated at that time. C going up the page, there's like 6 classrooms there. And then if you start at the very top on that horizontal piece, that there's 9 classrooms that are the large ones going over and then back down, and then a series of smaller spaces on that vertical section to the right.
And up there on D, all the way over to the left, that's where the students come in, correct?
Off the
Yes,
buses.
Yes, the
Off
buses
the
are up there off
yes.
the
Okay,
top
just want to
left.
make sure where I'm
You
at.
got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as previously mentioned, looking at these renovations and the cost of those renovations being over $1 million pushes us into the requirements to meet House Bill 49, which at this point is 6 years old. But as you can see here, requires any projects over $1 million, requiring a certificate of necessity to do the upgrades, which includes secure vestibule, ballistic resistant materials in those vestibules, as well as installation of new hardware at the classrooms and installation of panic buttons in the school. So that adds some additional costs. We'll talk about that. So that would require us to do some modifications to the existing front entrance there to create a entry vestibule. Right now, as you walk in, you've got that small vestibule there. We would be creating a new vestibule by that top red line going across, and that would force everyone to come in and go over to the office. All of the glass in those areas would need to be ballistic resistant. Some people, term bulletproof, but it's really ballistic rated glazing, as well as necessary hardware so people would be able to be buzzed in before they'd be allowed to enter the school.
So that vestibule is where the fireplace is.
Yes, the fireplace is just to the right there, where you see kind of those 2 walls side by side there.
Okay.
So the real impetus behind this was doing some mechanical upgrades. Those that C wing and D wing, I think, still have window units in some of those spaces there. So a big part of this would be to provide a new HVAC system, heating, ventilation, and cooling for the rest of the school, and replace some air handlers. You can read through and see all that, but a number of mechanical upgrades throughout the school there. And also important to note, adding sprinklers throughout the entire facility, as it's not sprinklered now, which again would increase the safety factor there. So as we mentioned earlier, it's a little shaded, a little hard to see, but shaded, the C wing and the D wing, where we have those renovation plans. And that work would include asbestos abatement from some of the floor finishes and new finishes throughout that wing, and new restrooms, which would be ADA accessible and compliant. Also would include window and door replacements, and a new gym roof replacement. That was the only area I think that was not touched when we did the roof replacements 2 years ago. And as part of the discussion previously last year, the existing gym is the little small area to the right of B. You see the big B being in the cafeteria, then the little stage. That space to the right, those of you that are familiar with the school, is probably the smallest gym I've ever been in there. And based on some discussions there, we decided to include with this work an 8,300 square foot addition, which is shown in the bottom left here, to provide a really true gymnasium space. And that would allow the existing gym to be renovated and turned into 2 classrooms. And this was just a rendering of how that new gymnasium could look, and kind of upgrades to the front entrance to the school, kind of picking up some of the colors, the Laurel colors that we've been able to bring through to the high school and the elementary school now.
Brad, while you're here on this slide, I just want to, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Whaley to jump in here and help me out here. You know, for people who might be watching this at home, then, well, why does a elementary school, especially an early learning academy, need a gymnasium? The amount of assemblies they have to have just to have all the parents be able to see their kids. I mean, Susan, you want to speak to that?
Yes, knowing that we have to split it up, we have to do like a production 2 to 4 times in a day, because we want all families to be able to come in and share and see their kids, and we used to have to limit it because there was no space, because we actually used the cafeteria side. But my vision was 2 reasons with the new gymnasium, that we would be able to have our productions and everybody would come that wants to come, but also our community would really benefit from, obviously, the facility request to use this as well. And I want a gym that's freestanding, that you can go right, I think that door that you did shows you go right in the gym and right out of the gym, you don't have to go through the school. So I think that's another nice feature that you take into consideration.
Exactly, good points. And step back to the plan here, you can see there's a door just at the upper right-hand side of the gym that could provide it with access without having to enter into the school itself. And you can just see by comparison the size of the existing cafeteria to what this space would be. So it would provide a larger space by far.
Is there a stage in the gym, or
Not in the gym, no.
where is the stage? There's one there now.
Stage is the one in the cafeteria just to the right of the large letter B that you see there. And this is another view from the corner of Georgetown Road and Wilson Street as you'd be approaching the school. So it kind of gives a neat, fresh look to the existing facility there. Included with that is kind of upgrading the front entrance, and we had some discussions with DelDOT as we were developing this last year, and they're requiring some upgrades to the entrances and the sidewalks. And with stormwater management, by adding the gymnasium, we have to address that as well. So we've added some additional cost in there to address these site work upgrades that would be required by the state.
Brad, I don't want to keep interrupting your presentation,
No, please.
but I think Mr. Nichols brings up a good point that at least I just thought of. If our whole thing, our big reason for having the gymnasium is because of our assemblies that we want our parents to attend, and there's no stage in there.
Right.
You could probably have it set up with a small riser that could be portable, so that could be brought in and create a stage.
Could you put on an addendum and how much it would be additionally for a stage, and get with
absolutely.
Have a
Susan?
regular stage.
Yeah, I don't
Of some sort,
cost.
you know?
The production for little people need to be extravagant.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
And then again, one last view of the new entry in the gymnasium space there. And then the last piece here, looking at additional classroom spaces with an addition that would be going on to the upper right-hand side of the plan as you originally looked at it. It would come off of the D wing and up and just kind of L over to add an additional 7 classrooms. And you can see on the bottom right-hand side of the photo here where that addition would be, and in the upper left-hand corner is where the gymnasium addition would be. Those 2 white roofs would be the new additions to the school. So all this proposed work includes those, what we call DEMA upgrades, but those security upgrades to meet the House bill requirements, the mechanical upgrades throughout, the classroom renovations, the cafeteria roof, adding the 7 classroom addition, adding the new gymnasium, and all the associated site work. So here are the numbers, and really it's the numbers that we had last year, just up some increases to meet the increases that the state has allowed for inflation for the past year. And again, listed by all those pieces that I previously mentioned, takes us to 29, just a little over 29 million without the classroom addition. That would be another 7.5 million, so it takes us to 36.6 with the classroom addition for all of that work.
That would be the total amount.
That would be the total amount, yes,
I thought
ma'am.
we were talking about 40 million last year.
No, it was slightly less. I don't remember the exact number. I want to say it was 34 or something.
I had CRS.
It was a
I
little
can't
less.
remember stuff, yeah.
It was a little less than that last
Yes,
year.
a little
Okay.
less.
Does this include furniture?
Yes, it has some FF&E for the classrooms.
Okay.
It has what for the classrooms?
FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and
I got
equipment,
you.
I'm sorry.
Do you have this broken down by the 80-20 split?
I do not.
Yeah. So that'd be a good segue for me then, for people to understand who, again, might be watching this at home. It doesn't mean that, we get a referendum approved to go ahead and get the tax money to build the school. What this means, a CN, Certificate of Necessity, means that we've proven to the state that we have the need for a larger building and renovations to it. And once that gets approved by the state, we have an 80%, 20% split. The state pays 80% because we have a low tax base. So the state would pay 80% of that 37 million. The Laurel taxpayers would have to pay about $7 million, if I'm doing my math correctly, about 7.2, something like that. So, it's quite a fine to get approved for a CN, if you can approve it locally. But to be honest with you, we just have no choice. We were going to have to move first grade over there next year. We're going to have to. LES is, filled to the brims now. And we certainly, they certainly are serviceable. I know Daryl and Daryl Downs, our Director of Facilities, and Ashley Giska, our Assistant Superintendent, walked the school not too long ago just to make sure that, we could do these things. Is it ideal? No. Is it serviceable? Yeah. And in a couple more years, it's going to be less serviceable. And once we get this CN, if we were to get it, this is how far out, Brad? 3-4 years before completion?
Probably at least 3,
Yeah.
more likely 4. You've got a year
So,
probably of
yeah,
design.
so
and-
we have to move on this while we're on the back end of serviceability with Nalela, because by the time this will get approved and built, it has less of a value to us, so. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hastings?
Brad, what, the stormwater management area, where exactly would that be?
We show it, and again, just kind of right, it would be down below where that existing drive-in is at the front of the school. Let me back up, right on, over to the right, you see that little
All the way
area
over.
there. And it would be.
All the way over here on the right?
On the right, and you would have some down near the parking and probably around the cafeteria, all bioretention, so it's not going to be a pond or anything like that. It would just be, a kind of a swell area to deal with stormwater management.
Well, the geese, that you might build some geese houses.
No, you shouldn't have any standing
I
water
don't like
except
geese
during
because
this.
they.
All the
bite
way
you.
down to the right would
Yes,
not be a
ma'am.
pond?
No,
No.
no,
No,
we
but
just show that as a.
that area down on the right has been, discussed for, stormwater management already, so it's already been perked, and I think at some point in time, I think, Darrell,
Daryl, didn't we have trouble there one time?
didn't you get that approved for,
We had trouble
They
with
corrected it.
probably to the right on Washington Street.
Right,
We had a drainage system installed. We don't have a problem there anymore.
okay.
but there was an area there,
Ways from that pond.
wasn't there an area there, that they allotted for a pond if we needed one or something, or? Matter of fact, I think you can talk to somebody about digging it and putting it in there for us or something.
Yeah, well, we had the conservation district come in and do the drainage system.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
We didn't, at that point, we didn't talk about a pond. But, we do want to make sure in the grants, make sure it's not gonna be a wet pond. We don't have to worry about kids being in water.
right,
Good.
It's gonna be similar to what we have at LES.
okay. All right, very
What do we
good.
got?
Okay.
What do we got at LES? We don't have a
Same sort of
pond.
thing, bioretention, there's no pond.
There's no pond,
It's just
okay.
the bioretention areas.
Okay, that'd be good. I had visions of a pond and geese and,
All right.
Not good with little people.
All right,
All right, thank you, Brad, appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that'll be on the agenda tonight.
I'm seeing you again.
Yeah, right now, there we go.
okay. Becker Morgan Group, North Laurel Early Learning Academy Certificate of Necessity Report. Recommend to approve the North Laurel Early Learning Academy Certificate of Necessity as submitted.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols,
So, approve.
Ms. Ralph,
Approved.
Linda, approve, so approved. Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you. Appreciate you.
Financial report now, Ms. Horsey.
All right, good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
Good.
Are you doing okay?
I'm doing okay. Okay. Some accomplishments since our last meeting way back when, in June. We got our mass pay update completed for our 12-month employees and our fiscal year 24 closeout for June 30th. Submitted our gap report. Our consolidated grant application has been completed or submitted, and our ESSER compliance reporting and our technology block grant reports have all been submitted as well. Some things we have coming up, we're still in the midst of our FY23 local funds audit, the financial position report as of 8/1, that's in your packets tonight for approval. The mass pay update for our 10-month employees is being processed by first this week. The certificate of necessity application, which Mr. Hastings just presented, is due to DOE on August 31st. The Opportunity Fund application we are currently working on. And the Safety and Security Fund application, we're also currently working on that. It's due on September 1st. Our next CBOC meeting is on September 16th. And we have some state funds that will be ending on September 30th that we're making sure we spend down so we don't lose any of that funding. And then, of course, our September 30th unit count will be upon us before we know it. This is a snapshot of our reserve and local fund as of 6/30. That was for the entire fiscal year last year compared to FY23, just tracking it by month, showing the trends. And we basically ended up where we started. That's a historical look over the last several years. Showing this year, we basically broke even. We had about $30,000 ahead to the good. but we basically broke even this year. So with that, with the federal funds that are expiring this year, we don't have the COVID money anymore. Those will be ending in September. With that, and making sure that we fill our positions like we are trying to, I anticipate that this is going to start declining rather quickly. Excuse me. So that's why we're starting to look at our current expense tax rate and considering a referendum. Sorry. Okay, so that was the end of the slideshow. I think I was missing one. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay, are there any questions for me?
No?
No?
No. Ms. Horsey, we will look to, me and you to present the CN and also the current expense timeline in the next board meeting. Okay, we'll work together over the next 30 days to do that, to give the board a public look at it. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Recommend to approve the August 1st financial position report as submitted.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. So next, I need you to sign that. Ms. Horsey. Unfinished business. Second reading. Recommend to approve the second reading of policy BDDH-R, public participation at meetings, board meetings, as submitted and found on the district website in the Board of Education policy section and as found at the law school district sites. This policy was available for review by the community at the law school district buildings and on the district website.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. So approved. Recommend approval of school choice as a group.
So moved.
Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. Recommend approval of school choice as submitted.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. Fundraisers, recommend approval as fundraisers as a group.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Recommend approval of fundraisers as submitted.
So moved.
Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approve.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Phew, 41 fundraisers. That's a lot. Okay, rentals. Recommend to approve request of Jamie Gordy, Laurel Youth Sports for use of Laurel Middle School Gymnasium to host youth basketball on season long request beginning December the 7th, 2024 to April the 5th, 2025, Saturdays only, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cost is $2. Equipment requested, scoreboard, 4 tables, and 24 chairs. Certificate of liability insurance provided.
Madam President, I recommend approval of use of facility fee, custodial fee, and constable fee waived.
Okay, we have a first by Mr. Nichols. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Recommend to approve request of Suzanne Barger, Western Sussex Chamber of Commerce, for use of Laurel Elementary School parking lot to host parking for annual Broad Creek Bike and Brew on Saturday, September the 21st, from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Certificate of liability insurance has been provided.
I recommend approval and use of the facility fee, custodial and constable fees waived.
Second.
Okay, first by Ms. Ralph, second by Mr. Nichols. Roll call vote, Ms. Ralph?
Approved.
Mr. Nichols?
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Recommend to approve the request of Laurel Police Chief Roger
Priscilla?
Priscilla, Laurel Police Department for use of North Laurel Early Learning Academy athletic field and grounds to host Laurel's Police Night Out with the community on Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024, with setup at 3 p.m. and event kickoff from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Rain date of August the 27th. Certificate of liability insurance has been provided.
I move to recommend approval of the use of facility fee, custodial and constable fees waived.
Second.
Okay, first by Mrs. Ralph, second by Mr. Nichols. Roll call vote. Ms. Ralph?
Approved.
Mr. Nichols?
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Recommend approval of trips as a group.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols,
Second.
second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols?
Approved.
Ms. Ralph?
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Recommend approval of trips as submitted.
So moved.
Mr. Nichols?
Second.
Ms. Ralph, roll call vote, Mr. Nichols?
Approved.
Ms. Ralph?
Approved.
And I also approve. That's approved. Transportation walk zones. Recommend approving the Transportation Office to submit designated areas to the State Unique Hazard Committee to review the following walk zones for transportation for the 2024-2025 school year. District Land Road, Woodland Ferry Road, County Seat Highway Route 9, and Laurel Road, Route 24 west of Laurel Town limits.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Nutrition Services local salary increase for school nutrition managers. Recommend to approve Nutrition Services 4% local salary increase for school nutrition managers as submitted.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I also approve, so approved. Laurel Board of Education authorizes superintendent to reallocate funds in the FY 25 Opportunity Funding Grant from one school to another as needed.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I also approve, so approved. Possible action on executive session items. Recommend approving the personnel recommendations as listed in attachment A.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve, so approved. Personnel attachment B, support staff. Recommend approving the personnel recommendations as listed in attachment B.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I also approve, so approved. Personnel attachment C, coaches. Recommend approving the personnel recommendations as listed in attachment C.
So moved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I also approve, so approved. Personnel attachment D, cafe. Recommend approving the personnel recommendations as listed in attachment D.
Approved.
First, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
And I also approve. The regular board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September the 18th at 7 p.m. right here in Laurel Middle High School Cafe. Don't forget, well, none of you will, you'll all be there Monday with the open house and everything. Do I have a motion? We adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Second, Ms. Ralph. Roll call vote, Mr. Nichols.
Approved.
And Ms. Ralph.
Approved.
I also approve. So approve. We are adjourning at 7:39 p.m.